Hi everyone. So the purpose of this class is to put the documentary The Century of the Self in context by giving you some information of the on the birth of the mass society and the role that the media played in it. So when scholars refer to the birth of modern life, they usually refer to a series of interrelated phenomena that make up the process of modernization. And these phenomena are industrialization, of course, the Industrial Revolution and its extension to various countries, urbanization, immigration, the specialization of labor functions, democratization as new subjects enter, in a certain sense, the plane of history and of political life, with the expansion of the suffrage to women and to a number of subjects that were historically excluded from political life, but also consumerism and the rise of new desires. So all these phenomena that are interrelated bring with themselves a series of concerns. To begin with, Emile Durkheim, an important sociologist, makes reference to the phenomenon of social anomie as a breakdown in social norms and conventions, as the Industrial Revolution creates a society that is either excessively rigid and unable to regulate itself, or on the contrary, it's a society that changes too dynamically, and therefore the individuals are not able to keep up with the new values. Another phenomenon that is discussed extensively is the phenomenon of crowds, and Gustave Le Bon, for example, he describes the crowd as a process that is characterized by three interrelated phenomena: anonymity, contagion, and suggestibility. And again, uh, the, um, the problem here is that the individual seems to lose himself or himself as an individual, loses his ability to make independent judgments, and is contagion basically by this anomic mass. In the 1920s and 30s, you also have the rise, especially in Europe, of political instability, with the rise of fascism in Italy, of Nazism in Germany in the 1930s. So there are many concerns on how politicians, for example, governments are going to be able to contain these crowds and this instability. And therefore, you see the rise of the importance of the science of managing the masses, which is known as propaganda, which is already at work, of course, in World War One, during World War One, to mobilize popular consensus for the war. But after the end of the war, a new class of experts begins to emerge that studies the media quite closely. A very important text, and one of these experts is Walter Lippmann, perhaps the most influential political journalist of his times. Lippmann wrote a very important book, Public Opinion, in 1922, in which he argues that the mass media produce distorted representations of reality. The public in general is not informed and does not care so much about public life, and therefore decision makers have, for Lippmann, to be protected from the media and the influence of the public decision of the public opinion if they want to make decisions that are good for the nation, that might be unpopular but are still necessary. So for Lippmann, this new class of experts, which is basically social and political scientists who have access to hard data, have to advise the government so that politicians can govern in the interest of the nation rather than getting swayed by the pressure of the media and the public opinion. Edward Bernays whom you have seen in the first episode of the Century of the Self, was highly influenced by the work of Walt Lippmann, and so he begins to work on the notion of propaganda as the scientific method for managing the masses. However, propaganda was a term that fell in disgrace quite quickly as the Nazis created the Ministry for Propaganda that was led by Joseph Goebbels. And therefore, Lippmann decided to use another term, public relations. He first opened the Office of Public Relations Counselor in New York in 1919. And after he saw that the term propaganda got discredited, he began to outline the foundations of modern PRs. For Bernays in particular, as we've seen in the documentary, the PR Council exerts influence on the masses indirectly by organizing campaigns that deliver a message, but not in the form of factual information, for example, but by creating the conditions for the audience to buy into this message, whether this is a commercial message or a political message, doesn't make any difference for Bernays. So, because of the power of the media, beginning in the 1940s, the so-called magic bullet theory of media effects, or the hypodermic needle theory, emerges. This theory basically states that the audience is homogeneous, it's a mass or a crowd that does not have distinguishing characteristics within itself, is open and susceptible to persuasion. Media are a powerful force for attitude, value, and behavioral changes, and the impact of media messages is generally uniform and immediate. And we can see this at work, especially with the 1938 fake broadcast by Orson Welles, which was a radio drama that mimicked an invasion from Mars, an alien invasion from Mars, and a lot of people who tuned in into the program late believed the program to be true. So the program caused widespread social panic, which confirmed all the theories of like the hypodermic needle theory and the magic bullet theory of media effects. Media theory has evolved in many other directions after World War II, but for the purpose of this class, I will simply ask you two questions. First, do you think that the kind of massified self that was highly susceptible and exposed to media messages still exists today, as the influence of media on our lives in general diminished or increased as compared to the mass audiences of the 1940s and 50s? Second, can you make contemporary examples of marketing products or branding politicians, if you want, indirectly, as Bernays did throughout the 20th century? Thank you for listening, and looking forward to reading your comments.